Hi everyone, welcome to Getting Started. Healthy Students Are Better Learners. It is 3:30 on the dot. Thank you for joining us. This is Rosa Ramirez from Healthy Schools Campaign, and we're excited to have you today. So we're just going to cover a few logistics about what to expect during this webinar. And so we're going to be respectful of your time, and we're going to have this webinar run approximately, probably a little shorter than an hour, and we are recording this webinar, so it will be available for you. We'll also email it out and also post it on our website at the end. So at the end, we're also going to launch a survey, so if you can please take your time to fill it out. It'll only take a few minutes, 1 minute, we promise. Your feedback is very important to us and better improving our practice. So there is we reserved about 10 minutes towards the end of the webinar. It's a Q&A, and you can ask questions through our chat function. And so you'll see it on your left side screen, and you'll be able to see it. So please don't be shy and type away as there are thoughts that are sparked throughout the presentation, or if you have like a burning question, we'll be sure to review those at the end. So a little bit about Healthy Schools Campaign, and then I will kick it off to my colleague. But Healthy Schools Campaign is a local nonprofit, and we work at the local national level around a really simple idea that healthy students are better learners, and we work hard to make those changes at multiple levels. So the idea is not just a sentiment, but something that we practice in the everyday school environment. So what does that mean? It means that students have access to healthy school food, they have opportunities to practice active, healthy lifestyles, there's school health services that are being delivered, the ways that school buildings are being maintained and cleaned are in ways that promote health and not trigger health concerns in our children. But it's really about creating an environment that is healthy, and it's also creating an environment where children can learn in the best way possible. So with that, I will introduce my colleague, Kenneth Varner. He is the Community Engagement Manager at Healthy Schools Campaign. And while I introduce him, we're going to launch a poll question just to know who's in the room. So if you have a second, fill this out. So we're asking who you are just so we can tailor this presentation to those that are participating today. So while you're filling this out, I'll let Kenneth introduce and say a little bit more about his role at Healthy Schools Campaign.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for attending. I am Kenneth Varner, the Community Engagement Coordinator with Healthy Schools Campaign. I've been working here for 2.5 years now. Part of my role is to do a lot of the community engagement on our behalf, to make the connections with schools, administrations, and teachers, and really showcase our message on why we believe healthy students are better learners. I also provide technical assistance with schools in achieving the healthy CPS indicator, which would be implementing the wellness badges, implementing wellness policies in the school to achieve the badges. Before working in this position, I worked at a school on Chicago's South Side as the health coordinator. I took kids on field trips to get glasses, arranged a mobile dental van, and as well, I implemented strategies to implement wellness in the school, partly by doing health challenges with the students on a monthly basis.
Great, thanks so much, Kenneth. So we're going to close this poll now, and it looks like 100% of you are other. So if you have a chance, can you chat us what exactly that means? Are you a parent volunteer, or what exactly is your role? All
right. So as we get started, I'd like to first start by discussing what is a healthy school. Right? A lot of times we say we want our schools to be healthy, but what exactly does that mean? So here's a couple of things to consider. A school setting that understands and supports students' well-being and student health is a foundation for learning, so not something that is separate. It is an environment that has good nutrition, physical activity, basic safety, clean air and water, access to care and knowledge and skills that help students make healthy choices and which allow them to thrive. Access to care includes physical, behavior, and mental health, dental and vision, prevention screening, and disease management. We really want to focus on that because a lot of the barriers to learning can come from health issues. So it's like, how well can a student pay attention in class if that student has a throbbing toothache, right? Healthy schools also where students learn through lessons and through examples to value their own health and that of the environment. That is a key part because it's all about modeling behavior there. It's not just enough for students to do what we say. Students are going to do what we do, and we all know that for those of us that have raised children or have young ones in our family. The most important way to teach someone is through the example that you set yourself. So that's an example of what is a healthy school. Now we want to talk about why we want to make sure our schools are healthy. And that's because we believe healthy students are better learners. In the report, Charles Bass clearly states that no matter how well teachers are prepared to teach, no matter what accountability measures are put in place, no matter what governing structures are established for schools, educational progress will be profoundly limited if students are not motivated and able to learn. Health-related problems play a major role in limiting the motivation and ability to learn of our students. While schools cannot address all of the conditions that cause education or behavioral disparities, there are evidence-based and promising approaches that can be applied to address the health issues of students and ensure they are able to learn and be successful. So we want to focus on the whole child. Evidence indicates that education and health for students must go hand in hand in order for students to succeed. This includes their social and emotional health, providing consistent messaging throughout the school. For chronic absenteeism, students need to be in school so they can learn. Studies show that students who miss 2 or more days per school month are more likely to drop out of school. These students include victims of bullying, kids with chronic health issues, and students whose parents struggle to get them to school due to work or other issues. So a lot of times we think about chronic absenteeism as tardiness, kids cutting school, but that is not the same thing. Missing school for any reason whatsoever can lead to chronic absenteeism. It's because if you're not in the classroom, you're not learning. And where you are instead is insignificant. It's the fact is that you are not in the classroom receiving that instruction, and once you come back, you are behind, and you're going to be continuing to fall behind if you continue to miss those days. Which brings us to the next point of good nutrition. Providing nutrition education in school is essential, especially considering students can be in the school up to 8 hours each day. A lot of times students are receiving a majority of their food from the school. You can, then also we want to talk about the physical education. So staying physically active during the school day helps children with their focus. Students who sit in one spot for too long usually lose focus. Allowing students to move throughout the day in class, in PE, gym, and recess is essential for their academic success. Physical movement prior to tests increase test scores as well. So we want to talk about the connection between healthy eating and academic achievement. So a lot of times the motivation for the school is what? Test scores. That's what we want to say. Everything we think about in the school is like, how well are the students doing? We judge it on how well they're doing on their tests, right? We want to know how well their math scores are, how well their reading scores are, how well their science scores are. In order to improve those test scores, we also have to look at the child as an individual, as a whole human being. So healthy eating comes into that. So we see here from this chart, participating in the school breakfast program has all these positive outcomes: increased academic grades and standardized test scores, reduced absenteeism, improved cognitive performance, skipping down to insufficient food intake. There's going to be negatives that go with that. You're going to have lower grades, higher rates of absenteeism, repeating a grade, inability to focus. So just imagine yourself when you're going through your day and you haven't eaten. Like, how irritable can you be? How well can you pay attention? Now put that on a child who is not as well developed as us adults who know how to monitor our behavior and to understand what we're going through. So those are the situations that students can be in the classroom. Now, how well can we expect them to perform if they haven't started their day with a healthy breakfast, or if they're not receiving the nutrients throughout the day that sustain them throughout while we're trying to get in those math lessons and those science lessons and everything else, right? We have to prepare them to achieve. Now we want to look about the physical activity and how that's connected to learning. Students who are physically active have better grades, better school attendance, and have better classroom behaviors. Where does that come from? That comes from a lot of working off that energy, being able to get the wiggles out, if they say. More participation in physical education class, better grades, standardized test scores, and classroom behavior. Participation in brief classroom physical activity breaks, improved cognitive performance, classroom behaviors, and educational outcomes. That is because studies show that after 90 minutes, your brain automatically is going to change focus on whatever it's focused on. You need that break. Like whether or not you're going to take a break whether you want to or not. You cannot focus on anything for more than 90 minutes at a time. That is what neuroscience tells us. So children that have especially small attention spans, they're going to need those breaks just to let those things sink in, just so they're not they're focused on one thing the whole time. Your mind starts to wander. You're going to need that movement break. You're going to need that. You're getting restless. You need to stand up for a bit. And that is the same for all of us. And participation in extracurricular physical activities leads to higher grades, lower dropout rates, and fewer disciplinary problems. So these are all things to keep in mind. That is how nutrition and physical activity relates to the outcomes that we define in what makes the school good by the test scores of math and reading. And CPS has a very, very robust and well thought out wellness policy, which CPS recognizes that these some academic barriers to learning are health related, so they've implemented these wellness policies. This is a badge that will show up on all the schools' reports. It focuses on chronic disease, which is going to be the training on allergies, diabetes, and asthma. You're going to have the instruction badge, which speaks on nutrition education, sex education, physical education, and health education. You have your Learn Well badge, which monitors how well the school is implementing, creating the overall healthy environment. So that's going to speak to fundraisers, celebrations, garden utilization if a school has a garden, physical activity in the classroom outside of PE and recess. And then finally, you'll have the health services badge, which speaks to implementing of the dental, vision, and hearing health services that are going in the classroom. And so you can see all of this on your school's website by logging into cps.edu and going to the school profile page. Now we want to talk about how do we go about achieving those badges. The first thing you want to do is establish a wellness team. This can be made up of anyone that is passionate about implementing health and wellness policies in your school. That can be your teachers, your students, parents play a key role in this, your lunchroom manager, your school nurse, and CPS requires that someone from the pre-kindergarten classroom be represented on your wellness team. That can be the teacher or a classroom helper. But we want to make sure that there's that connection between pre-K and what's going on in the rest of the elementary school. We know those things can be siloed, but we really want to bring those together and put forth those quality, healthy habits as young as you can get in the children. Also part of the wellness team will be the school's wellness champion. And that will be someone that is chosen by the principal, and the principal will nominate that person with the Office of Student Health and Wellness at CPS. That person can also be recruited by parents. So if there happen to be any parents on the line, this is not just something your school can do. You can help your school identify the passionate people. You can play a key role in forming the wellness team and making sure that you are a part of it. One of the first things you should do in the beginning of the school year is review the school's alignment report. The alignment report can be found by going through the school's profile page at cps.edu. You can go to the Downloads tab and then scroll all the way to the bottom in the Other section, and you will see your alignment report. The alignment report is the results of the end of year school survey, which monitors how well the school has implemented the wellness policies. And this is what that alignment report looks like. You'll see with each badge, it'll have a list of questions, and it just checks off exactly how well you've done on each of those badges. In order to achieve that particular badge, you have to get 100% in that category. So as you see here, this school would have achieved both the Learning Well and the Health Services badge because all of these items have been checked off. The next thing you would want to do early on in your school year is fill out your Healthy CPS Checklist and create an action plan. In the resource page at the end of this presentation, I'll show you exactly where you can find that. So this is going to be a look at the Healthy CPS Checklist. This is something that after you look at your alignment report, you can see what you missed last year, and brainstorm the things that you want to focus on. But this is also going to give you a snapshot of where you currently are. So even if you haven't done this in the beginning of the year, you want to do this now. This is a great way just to see, have you kept up with what you've done last year? Are there things that have fallen off or places that you can improve on? If you're trying to get this figured out, a great way to do this is to print it up and go around your school and ask the necessary people who would have the information that you're looking for. But you do want to fill this out on the computer, because as you're clicking yes or no, the action steps are going to come up and tells you exactly what your next step should be. So if you click no, it's going to say, all right, this is what you need to do. You need to implement these actions, but you also want to pay attention that if you click yes, don't think because you click yes on something that there isn't a follow-up that you need to do. Sometimes it's about going into a CPS database and putting a person's name down or checking off that you have done a certain thing. So make sure that you are looking at the action steps if you chose yes or no. And from here is you can fill out your action plan, which would look like this. What you want to do here is delegate amongst your wellness team exactly who's going to do what. You can set a goal. I recommend starting off with some low-hanging fruit, the things that you will find were going to be easy to accomplish. Write out those action steps and assign that to a person. I'm a firm believer in that. No one does a lot if everyone does a little. So if everyone just takes a bite-sized piece, you will be amazed about how much you can get done. And also make sure you set yourself up for a timeline into accomplishing those things. And after you go through your alignment report, your Healthy CPS Checklist, and creating your action plan, just to give you a good base of knowledge on where these things are coming from, you want to review the CPS health-based policies. There are going to be 4 policies that make up the larger wellness policy. You're going to have your local school wellness policy, which is the overall healthy environment that speaks to all the healthy celebrations, healthy fundraisers, physical activity in the classroom. The healthy snack and beverage policy is going to speak toward all the items that can be provided to schools, to the students throughout the day. So that'll be 100% juice and water, healthy snacks. We're going to not be handing out Flaming Hots, right? The breakfast after the bell policy speaks to students being able to have access to breakfast even if they show up late to school. So this policy mandates that every student have access to breakfast pretty much all the way up until lunch. So if a student walks in at 10:30 and lunch hasn't started being served yet, that student should be able to have breakfast. The PE policy speaks specifically to how much physical education students should be getting. It should be 150 minutes per week, or that equivalent. So just make sure you brush up on all these different policies, just so you know exactly where, what you would have to accomplish throughout the year. So they are kind of like spread out. It is a lot to read. We here at Healthy Schools Campaign have brought a lot of these things together and put and categorized them a bit. There's a couple of those things I want to go over with you. As far as the school implementation efforts, I mentioned the school wellness champion. That'll be designated by the school principal. That'll be every year. So hopefully you'll find someone that is passionate about the work. That'll be a self-starter and able to stay on top of that. But of course, like I said, if everyone does a little, no one has to do a lot. The school wellness champion is going to require other people to help out and also to help keep that person on task. And that will be that wellness team, right? So the wellness team should include parents and guardians. That is a major point of the CPS wellness policy. We want to make sure that parents are engaged. And you also have to report to your LSC on a quarterly basis. So you want to make sure that's taking place. And you also want to prepare yourself for the annual Healthy CPS survey, which comes out in the spring. And that will inform whether or not how well you do in getting the badges. The PE policy, as I mentioned, requires the equivalent of 150 minutes per week throughout the school year. The school has to provide 20 minutes of recess. Another one I really want to highlight is students are neither denied nor required to engage in physical activity as a means of punishment, right? We don't want to have students thinking about physical activity as something they do when they get in trouble. So we want to go away from the drop and give me 20 mentality. We also don't want to deny students of their ability to participate in things like gym or recess. A lot of times we know what kids need, as we saw from the slide earlier, is that physical activity. You'll have better, be able to manage their behavior better if they're able to burn off some of that energy. So we want to be creative in brainstorming other ways to punish students or discipline children besides denying them of things that we know are vital to their education and their academic outcomes. I know, and I really, really am sensitive to the fact that sometimes that's the only bargaining chip that you have over students. Because little Johnny doesn't listen to anything, but the minute you say that Johnny can't go out for recess or Johnny can't participate in gym, Johnny starts to act right. But we really, really want to stray away from doing that or resulting to that. Nutrition education. This should be taught as a systematic unit of instruction to all students. The nutrition education should involve multiple channels of communication in addition to the classroom. So we're talking about posters up in the school. We want to talk about daily announcements. We want to talk about modeling that behavior of everyone that's in the building. Your school should reinforce new education messages by prohibiting the use of food as a reward. So I'm sensitive to the fact that when we celebrate, we want to have someone does a good job, we want to reward them with something. We want to be creative and not give away food items as that reward, right? We do not want to have that unhealthy celebration or of happiness and eating. A lot of times that's, in a lot of cultures, that's what we do. We're going to have a party, we want to celebrate something, and we want to associate it with food. The negative aspect that can come from that is what happens when you're sad. If you equate food with happiness, when you're sad, you're going to have that same equivalency and try to consume those foods that'll make you happy, which can sometimes be those unhealthy foods, which is now we've developed an unhealthy habit in relation to nutrition. So your school food environment, we talked about the breakfast after the bell policy, and then providing with students the amount of time to eat. They require 20 minutes for lunch and 10 minutes to eat breakfast. That is calculated from the moment they sit down and are able to eat. Sometimes in schools we'll designate that 20 minutes, but for 5 of those minutes the students are in line waiting to get their meal. So now they really have 15 minutes, or by the time they find their seat, it really breaks down to 10 minutes. So you want to make sure that students have, in regards to lunch, that 20 minutes of eating time. So that's the minute they sit down at a table and are ready to eat to the time they finish consuming their food. You want to make sure that they have that full 20 minutes. And if your school has a garden, you want to strive to be Eat What You Grow certified. That will allow the school to harvest from their garden and incorporate those items into the cafeteria and also into the school. So if you wanted to do any like nutrition education classes where you wanted to incorporate what you're growing in the garden into the classroom. Your school needs to be Eat What You Grow certified, and that's a specific training that CPS offers for food handling. So you would definitely need your lunchroom manager to be a participant in that. Back to celebrations and fundraisers. You can do a maximum of 2 unhealthy celebrations per year. A lot of schools will do something like Halloween and Valentine's Day. So that's just a way of being understanding of like, yes, there are exceptions to the rule, but you really want to focus on celebrating with fun rather than food. So when you think about your fundraisers or your celebrations, CPS is leaning toward excluding food from that completely. So the easiest way to understand it is just to try other ways. I know one school does, as far as like celebrating the birthday, they're no longer letting parents bring in cupcakes, but what they're doing is providing a student with a special birthday sash, or they can sit in their special like birthday chair, or their games that they can play that they only, like for the younger students, are games that they play that they only do when it's someone's birthday. So those are creative ways and incorporating healthy ways of celebrating. Things that you can do moving forward. You want to schedule a time for your wellness team to report to the LSC. That should be done quarterly. There are some resources that you can use that will help in that process. There is a Healthy CPS calendar that I'll be forwarding out to you later this week. In that is going to have all of the necessary trainings that teachers have to take. So you want to make sure that all those teachers are getting their all the professional development. You also want to develop a fundraising plan that makes sure that in your school, your fundraisers are being approved by your wellness team and also by your network chief. So this will prevent you from finding out after the fact that something is going to count against you once you fill out the Healthy CPS survey. Also, much like this webinar, which I thank you very much again for attending, we're going to have remaining sessions of this webinar going throughout the school year. We're going to be focusing on chronic absenteeism, the PE policy, as well as a few other topics. I'll be sending out that flyer for you as well, so please make sure you register for those. We're really trying to break this down into bite-sized pieces this year, so we're not getting overwhelmed with everything at once. So this will be a great way to follow along with CPS and get you to the point so you'll be successful at the end of the school year in achieving your Healthy CPS indicator. And now I would like to open this up to any questions that you may have.
So Kenneth, we got a few that chatted in and they want to know how can you work with the principal to make sure these LSC reports are done?
One thing I would recommend is going to your LSC and making sure that they put it on their standing agenda. Go to your LSC chair or the co-chair and make sure they know that this is required by CPS. Make sure they know that this is a requirement. And once you get it on the agenda, it should be, I would even say do it monthly, honestly, just so you're not trying to think about it quarterly. Just make it a standing action item where there's someone that can inform the LSC on what exactly is taking place as far as implementation. Got it.
So thanks, Kenneth. We want to be respectful of people's time, so we're going to close the session since it's 4 o'clock. Are there any resources that you want to share with the group before we end?
Yes, so here is a partner list for your schools. If you have any questions about if you want to implement, you need help in implementing any of the things going on at your school, here are some partners that you can reach out to. And then next here, the resource page, the Healthy CPS homepage. You will be able to find toolkits for the healthy celebrations and fundraisers, the PE policy, the Healthy CPS Checklist will be there. Our Healthy Schools Campaign Resource Center You'll find a toolkit on incorporating health and wellness into your school's continuous improvement work plan. You'll have some sample lesson plans for teachers, some tip sheets, as well as the other CPS wellness policies. You'll be able to find that there. The Learn Well toolkit will speak exactly to implementing strategies to reach your Learn Well badge. So that'll be more detail on how to put together a wellness team and who should be on that wellness team. We have the alternatives to denying physical activity, which is pretty self-explanatory. And we also have our Fit to Learn resource page, which is going to have a lot more lesson plans for teachers, toolkits who are incorporating physical activity into to other parts of the school day. And then you also have sample letters for healthy fundraisers and celebrations that can be sent home. So as you're making these changes in your school, you want to be able to make sure that everyone's on board and notified. So you'll have some letters in there that you can share out.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much. That's what we have for today. We will have another webinar coming up soon, but in the meantime, please reach out to Kenneth. Here's his contact information. Also, if you have questions specifically for CPS or specific situations you want to go over with them, this is their general email that they check on a regular basis. So again, thanks so much for joining us and have a great rest of your day.
Good afternoon.